Thank you. I'm Kalenzi, and I'm the team leader of African Evangelical Enterprise, Rwanda. I joined African Enterprise in 2000, actually February of 2000. That's when I joined, and I joined as a national coordinator because there was somebody who was responsible for the vision, and then I was there to manage the vision. So from 2000 up to date, I've been working with AEE, and I've actually worked in AEE in different capacities. I worked as a national coordinator, I worked as a program manager, and also worked as and today I'm working as a team leader. And so my role is to provide vision and also see to it that the vision is put into practice. AEE started in 1962. That is AEE globally. It started in 1962 by white South African, and AEE Rwanda started. The idea of starting African Evangelical Enterprise Rwanda came into existence in 1984. But AEE Rwanda was officially registered as a charity organization in 1987. So unfortunately in 1994 it was still a small organization, but the team leader or the executive director of the organization died. His deputy was killed too, and one other senior staff ran away, went to UK and didn't come back. So actually the members who were on board before 1994 won genocide. The ones that are on board today are only two. It's the office messenger and the secretary. The philosophy of African Evangelical Enterprise worldwide or globally is to evangelize in word and deed in partnership with the church. And what does that mean? It simply means that the demonstration of the gospel and the proclamation of the gospel have to go hand in hand. If I put it into simple terms, if there is a widow who has 5 kids who need to go to school and she cannot send them to school, doesn't have the economic muscle to do so, then the philosophy is that the good news that very widow is that she can be empowered to send her children to school and take care of them. But on the other side, if there is somebody who is involved in prostitution, the good news to her is that Jesus Christ came to die for the sinners, and therefore she can accept Christ Jesus and turn away from prostitution. So that's the philosophy. So it's the proclamation and demonstration, and those who need to hear the gospel, they also need to see the gospel being demonstrated. So the AEE Rwanda at the moment is actually operating in 13 districts out of the 30 that make up the country. And that's where we have physical presence. But there are other places where we don't have physical presence, but we are working with churches, or we are working in partnership with the churches, as our mission statement says. And the regional teams in Rwanda, in our context, they actually, we have one thing that cuts across: evangelizing in word and deed, in partnership with the church. So when it comes to the word, all the regional teams, all the regional offices, because we have a regional office that is coordinating our field offices in the south. We have a regional office in the east that is coordinating our offices, our field offices in the south, in the east, and we have a regional office in the central that is coordinating our field offices in the central. So they are all involved in evangelizing in partnership with the church. So in terms of the word, or the word wing, they are all involved in the evangelistic outreaches. They are all involved in mobilizing intercessors to pray for the nation and pray for the work that the organization is doing. They are all involved in reconciliation because of what happened in Rwanda. But when it comes to the deed part, the deed wing, they are actually responding to different national issues. If in the East there are issues of food security, then members are so much involved in food security. But if in the south there are issues of so much poverty, then the teams have a slant on mobilizing communities to save some money and do some revolving fund and other things. So to actually all the teams, all the regional offices are involved in more or less the same things, but what makes a difference is the extent. So you find that one team has a slant maybe on water and sanitation because that's a major issue in that particular location. Another team maybe may have a niche slant on food security because that's the most pressing challenge in that particular location. So of course, as an organization, we are faced up with a couple of challenges or a lot of challenges. And the major challenge is that there are not so many people really who are interested in supporting evangelism. Because, you know, when you read statistics, somebody will tell you that over 90% of Rwandese are evangelized. And so when you tell people to support evangelism, the first thing they will tell you, why evangelism in Rwanda? Because over 90% of our population are Christians. But the challenge is most of the people are nominal Christians. You know, we've had a history which is good and challenging at the same time. In the 50s, Rwanda was a monarchy. Early 50s, Rwanda was a monarchy. And when the colonialists came, they kind of convinced the king to become a Christian. And when the king became a Christian and was baptized, then he ordered everybody to become a Christian. So this is why you find that almost every person in Rwanda, save few, they call themselves Christians. But you can imagine, how could a country where over 98% of the population were Christians in 1994, how could we have genocide? And that puts a question on Christianity. As a Christian organization, and our major mandate is to evangelize, we do have challenges when it comes to funding, particularly funding for the evangelistic activities or evangelistic outreaches. And that's because Rwanda is mainly a Christian nation. And so when you tell people that you need funds to evangelize or to hold evangelistic activities in a country whereby over 90% claim to be Christians, then people don't see the reason as to why such funds should be given. But I was saying that, you know, in Rwanda, most of us claim to be Christians, and we are not really, we really don't practice what we say. We don't walk the talk. And that is somehow related to our background, because when the king became a Christian, he kind of ordered everybody, or he kind of instructed everybody to become a Christian. And so Christianity became like, you know, a common chorus. Everybody became a Christian, everybody claimed to be a Christian, but our Christianity is not grounded. And this is why I'm saying genocide was possible. So it's really a challenge of the level of funding. If you tell somebody, if you get a poor child who is malnourished, and then you bring her and you make her stand somewhere, and you say this child needs to go to school, or this child needs to have proper feeding, and then you bring another gentleman who is well dressed up in a suit, and you say, put him somewhere, and you say this gentleman needs Jesus. Of course, many people will say, well, we want to support the kid who wants to go to school, we want to support the kid who needs to be properly fed, but not so many will be interested in supporting this gentleman who is well dressed to meet Jesus. So it's really a challenge we face as a Christian organization, is that we partner with churches, and churches also have got a lot of challenges. You know, majority of the church leaders are not educated. You find that somebody has a congregation of 800 people who come and sit before him or her every Sunday, but this very person who is a pastor or who is a minister learned how to read and write by reading the Bible. So that's a very big challenge, because we are partnering with churches. So the churches are our major partner, but there are a lot of issues that that are manifested in the churches, like the issue of not being educated, like the issue of not having clear structures in the churches, and so it's really a big challenge. You know, it's hard for somebody to take people where he or she has never been. So you're asking this church leader to facilitate development process in his or her community, but the church leader himself or herself also needs to be empowered to develop himself. So it's a big challenge. And of course, the other challenge is that we are in the communities, and the communities have a lot of issues. So if we are a Christian organization that is trying to demonstrate the gospel, and we have limited level of funding even when it comes to the wing, so it becomes quite a challenge. African Evangelistic Enterprise works in 10 African countries. And in some countries it's called African Enterprise, in some other countries it's called African Evangelistic Enterprise. So it is working in South Africa, where it started. It works in Malawi, it works in Zimbabwe, it works in DRC, it works in Ethiopia, it works in Ghana, it works in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. And then we have what we call support offices. And support offices simply raises funds for evangelism or evangelistic activities. So we have a support office in Canada, Australia, UK, and Europe, the region. So the way we operate is that every team is registered as a local organization. And so to say, every team is kind of autonomous. So if I begin with African Evangelistic Enterprise Rwanda, you know, we have individuals who make up the General Assembly. So a General Assembly is composed of individuals, not institutions. And for one to become a member of our General Assembly, he or she has to apply, and then the General Assembly has to approve, and then becomes a member. And then it is the General Assembly that appoints the board. So we operate as a local organization. So African Enterprise Kenya is a local organization. It's registered as a local organization. African Enterprise Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Ghana, everywhere we are registered as a local organization. But we have what we call international board. An international board is composed of a few individuals from national teams and from support offices. And the international board has a term of office. So when that term of office comes to an end, we again meet and select another board or choose another board. And then we have what we call International Council. International Council is composed of all the team leaders, national team leaders, and all the chairpersons of the local boards and the chairpersons of the support office boards. And so that's how we work. So we don't have a head office, we don't have a regional office, we don't, at international level, we really don't have any physical structure. But we can decide and say we are meeting in Rwanda, we are meeting in Kenya, we are meeting in Ethiopia. And so it's an interesting organization with a kind of fragile structure. So that's how we operate. But we have an international team leader who has to play a pastoral role, and so he has to oversee the spiritual aspect. And his major responsibility is always to make sure that every national team is adhering to Christian principles or adhering to Christian norms and values. And then we have international chief operating officer who oversees the operations in all these 10 African countries. But besides that, every national team has her own strategic plan, every national team has her own structure, every national team has her own strategies, and it's semi-autonomous as I so in every team, we do share, all the teams across the continent, we do share the mission statement, which is evangelizing the cities of Africa through word and deed. But every national team has got her own vision. because the vision again is linked to the situation that is prevailing in a particular country. Like in our context, because of what happened, our vision is Rwanda, a country where God is honored and people live in peace and satisfaction of their daily needs. So you see, because of what happened in Rwanda, that's why the component of peace building comes in. And because again of the national issues that are affecting people, that's again why the idea of satisfaction of daily needs comes in. And because we're a Christian organization, that's why we have the idea of honoring God. You know, everything that we are doing, we want to make sure that it's contributing to our people honor God. So that every national office has her own vision, but the mission statement cuts across. So every national team, let's say Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, have their own vision statement. Now does AEE Rwanda link to the work of African Enterprise, so the continent and internationally? As I was telling you, we have 3 pillars as an organization. Our first pillar is mission and evangelism. And then our second pillar is leadership development or leadership training. And our third pillar is reconciliation. And so we as AEE Rwanda, whatever we are doing somehow has to contribute to one of those 3 pillars. So like we are involved in reconciliation, and therefore reconciliation is a pillar that cuts across. We are involved in evangelistic mission, and every other team is also involved in evangelistic mission. And because, you know, if you want to change Africa particularly, then you have to do something that is related with leadership development, because there are a lot of corruption, a lot of bad governance that is reflected on the continent. And so every national team, irrespective of wherever it is located, is involved in one or the other in the issues or in the concept of leadership training and leadership development. And then internationally, we also have what we call mission tours in support offices. So like, you know, most of the team leaders do go to different countries, create awareness about the work of African Evangelical Enterprise in Africa, because the churches need to support the work that is done in different teams, and before they support, then they also need to have information about what is it that the different national teams are doing. So we have teams going we have national team members going to Europe and Asia and US and Australia, telling about what AEE is doing and the different areas where we need some support. So that's how we are involved in the work of African Enterprise at global level.